I'm always forgetting to hit that guy. I want to make sure we're good and on. So, all right, move into the frame. I can always adjust this. Okay.
Don't pick my nose on camera.
I mean, you can.
I'm gonna pretend.
It'll be broadcasted for the world to see.
I'm gonna pretend I'm a star and I know how to use my mic. I'm just gonna keep adjusting it.
If at any time you can take this out and just walk around with it, like I don't care. You can do whatevs.
This looks inappropriate.
Is your wife gonna watch this?
Yeah, she wanted to watch it live.
Oh, is that why you asked? That's so funny. No, not
She
live.
tried to listen when I was on Talk Erie and missed like 90% of it. So
Aww.
she got little tidbits and she was like, "Oh, that was nice."
This is gonna be on iTunes, so she'll be able to listen to it whenever she wants.
iTunes.
Oh, I broadcast everywhere. I'm
Everywhere.
on all the things.
That sounds
Spotify,
expensive.
iTunes, all the. It's no, nothing. Like $12 a month on Buzzsprout. It's free to be on all the platforms. Maybe put it. Oh, you definitely want to tighten that guy up.
I need a screwdriver.
Who did this? Like that's good enough.
Guten Tag.
Like the cord is gonna hold it on now.
It'll be
All right.
I'm trying to be in your screen.
Yeah. Well, I can adjust you.
Yes, the Clorox wipes are.
I know. This was me and Andy Jimmy rigged this because they didn't have a way, and I was like, I need a camera, so they got us this thing, and I'm like, the cord's too short to put over the screens.
Makes
So
sense.
we're like, Clorox wipes.
Look at how fat I look.
Stop it. All right. Okay. I'm gonna do a little introduction. What do you want me to say about you?
Whatever you want.
I
Just
mean,
be
like.
honest. Just be honest.
I mean,
I always tell people
as
if
far as a
if you're
bio.
gonna give me a review, I just want to be honest, good or bad.
you have a degree
Yes, I do.
in
Operations and supply chain management. Just operations management.
and this is your first business,
Kind of.
and you're a father of one.
Yep.
And okay, that's enough.
Go ahead.
That's enough for me. Hello and welcome back to Honest CEO. I'm your host Gisele Littrell, and today I have my very first dude. Hello. I don't just interview women. It seems like it, but no. I have a super cool guy here with me. He is an operations management degreed dude, and he owns a super cool business and maybe another business in the past or something. Apparently, I'm going to get the background story on this. He is a fellow underdog undercover billionaire superstar. Holla. So I am super excited today to talk to a super cool and super helpful guy, because if you watched my show, if you haven't, get on there, Discovery Plus. He came and helped me out at the last minute to get my episode like usable, because you know, without the kitchen, what was the story? He is a father of one adorable little girl, right? Yeah, you have a girl, right? You have a boy? You have a boy. Okay. Well, whatever. Babies all look the same to me. But this just goes to show he hasn't invited me to his house, which I've asked him to do like 3 times. But I do know his wife is adorable and another horse aficionado like myself.
Crazy
and
horse lady.
we love the crazy horse ladies. So welcome, Chris Trott. Yeah.
Yay, applause.
Yeah, crowd went wild. No, so I don't know a whole bunch about you, Chris. And it's funny because like we've interacted for a long time. Like he used to deliver horse feed for me, like back in the day. So that might have been the other business. I don't know a whole lot about that, but that is kind of how we met originally, many moons ago. And that has grown into, you know, we got to know each other through this show. And I know your business has morphed and grown in different ways. So, because I don't know, obviously, even the gender of your child, why don't you tell me a little bit about you? Who's Chris Trott?
I am unapologetically me.
Good, because that's what we want here.
All right, good. So I own Second Chance Restoration and Design. Am I supposed to look at the camera?
If you
I'm
want,
supposed to look at
you can, whatever you
the
want.
screen. If I look at the screen, I look really serious. No, I own Second Chance Restoration and Design, and we mainly focus on custom fabrication on trucks. That's why you'll see Erie Fleet Solutions everywhere. That's my DBA. I started out wanting to restore antiques and make old things new and useful and a little bit more modern with their antique touch, and that was a horrible business plan. So the first job I got in the first shop that I rented was actually not an antique at all. It was a trailer that needed totally reworked. I was like, cool, I know how to do this. This is my thing. We'll do that, get some quick cash, and go back into the antiques. And antiques never worked out. But that's okay.
And the fact that you just said quick cash. Cash is never quick.
It's painful.
It's painful and long suffering. That's what cash is. So from there, where'd you go?
I've watched a couple $100,000 just pass right through.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
I don't even. When a $10,000 job comes in, you're like, oh man, I hope I make $500 off that.
Yeah, that's not how it's supposed to be. We're not doing it right.
Exactly.
I'm dumb enough that if I feel that I will just work and work and work, and if I work harder and longer than anybody else, I'll be fine. And
we were told by a certain billionaire that doesn't work.
No. No, but he wants me to spend more money. And he's right.
I know.
But I'm afraid.
Dude.
I don't have it.
Same.
But I'm faking it really well. So, no, we do a lot of commercial truck repair, commercial truck building. So we're what's called a final stage manufacturer. So we'll take new trucks and finish them off. They come in as just a cab and rails. We'll put a roll-off system on, or a dump bed, or a flatbed. We sell flatbeds and dump beds. And a lot of what we do is use trucks that started their life as a box truck or like a fleet truck, like a Ryder truck or a U-Haul, and completely rework them so they can have a second or a third or a fourth life. The one truck I have there is on its fourth life, and served a nice trusty life through every one of them.
Aw,
So,
he basically has an eco-friendly business. Less waste.
yeah, that
Reuse. Reduce, recycle, reuse.
and roll call.
I like it because it actually fits your model of the whole antiques, restoring them. It's just
I'm
like
a sucker for junk.
in a really large scale. I am too. I love like finding old furniture and new purposes for them, or pieces of things that wasn't intended for this, but I'm like,
It works.
it works. Yeah, I absolutely love that kind of a thing. If you watch the show, you would see that Chris actually built the smoker that Underdog ended up using for the rib cook-off, and it still sits proudly out front of Underdog Barbecue. So it's not just trucks. He can build like anything, and he also moves ovens through windows. That's the
With
thing.
old junk forklifts.
With like smoking forklifts.
That was the last trip for that forklift.
The fact that they
got
didn't
back.
get that on camera was like,
They did.
oh.
They did.
Did they get him
Yeah.
smoking though?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That was the
Because
last
you
trip.
were like such a quick blip on there, and I'm like, oh, they needed like him going down the road.
Oh, yeah.
It was so
I have
fantastic.
the last stick shift forklift in Erie, grabbing gears going up Peach Street. People are looking at me like, what the hell?
So this podcast is all about the first 3 years of business and trying to help people who are considering going into business or just got into business understand how difficult the first 3 years are. But there's a lot of resources and a lot of information that can be shared to make that easier. And there's a lot of pitfalls that we all go into that are really quite universal among no matter what industry you're in, product, service, whatever. So tell me what the catalyst was that got you to want to become an entrepreneur in the first place. What was that moment where you're like, I can't work a regular job. Like, I have to reach out on my own and know that you could support yourself on your own and a family.
I thought I could. I thought I could do it from day one, like when I was born. But, my grandparents were in business. My parents were in business, and my parents had taken over both my grandparents' businesses.
Nice.
That's a whole other
So
story.
this is a whole family of
Yeah,
business
and
owners
their
and
whole
entrepreneurs.
goal after they went out of business was, don't do it. Get a job, support yourself well,
Protect you.
have a great life without that kind of stress. And my dad would work, 3 days straight, pass out on the creeper for a little bit and go right back to it. And I remember him just always working and being tired. And my mom was tireless about taking care of us, and then she'd go and do her thing and, help with whatever we were doing at the time. And I just wanted it. I used to find letterhead that they had from one of my grandfather's businesses in boxes.
You
and I-
wanted to work 3 days straight without
Yeah, it's a sickness.
sleep.
But I just wanted to do what they did, and I wanted to be in business. I set up this. We had an empty bedroom after my brother and I got bunk beds, and I set up a computer room with an office and everything. And I don't know what business I was in, but I was in business. And then I turned the garage into a shop. You know, I had some of my dad's old stuff. My dad pretty much set up 2 racks in the garage after he went out of business and just packed all of his tools and equipment into it. So it was always an adventure.
When did you start like getting into tools, getting in the garage?
Very, very young.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that was kind of always in you to want to be in that space.
Well, yeah, we never took anything to a shop because we couldn't afford it. I mean, it was, my parents were covered.
Necessity births entrepreneurs. It
Necessity
really
yields
does.
creativity is what I tell
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
But my dad was a very talented, still is, very talented mechanic, very talented fabricator. But my grandfather died when he was very young, when he was 10. So from like 6th grade on, he was in the shop helping and sweeping. And in high school, he'd go and get the trucks ready before he went to high school and go back after school and keep working. So it was just a different way of life for him that he didn't really ask for.
Yeah.
But it just felt natural. So watching him work, obviously not from 6th grade on, but watching him work like
So
that.
he sent you to college in hopes that you were just going to get a job.
Oh yeah, went with me to everything. Like, look, you can live on campus and do this. And look at how nice this will be. You can, you know, you can still drive a pickup, but maybe it'll be nicer with air conditioning and everything.
The windows don't have to be cranked.
Oh yeah, when I got a different truck, he was like, nope, we need the AC because when you go to that first internship, you're going to be not sweaty and...
Aww. I
So-
would love to meet your dad.
You can. He's the assistant chief of the Erie Fire Department. So just
Really?
Yeah. He's the only.
Maybe if Chris
only
actually
one-
invites me to his house, maybe for a cookout or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be at the Stag and Drag
One
for
of
my
these
brother's
days.
wedding.
That's true. I will be at Stag.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
So did you ever get into a job at any point where you were working for someone else, or did you just work for your dad in the family business?
Family business was gone when I was 1,
Oh, okay.
and then he worked for. Always had 1, 2, 3 jobs. So he worked for my uncle. He worked for the fire department, or he was working at a different truck garage when I was younger. Got in with the fire department as a mechanic. Needed the benefits, you know, because we were a growing family.
So you essentially were raised, they weren't running their own business, but you still had
They
this
were
desire.
recovering
You
from it.
wanted to start your own business,
Oh, yeah.
be a businessman. So when did you take that step?
So in college, I got an internship right after my freshman year. So I was hungry, like I gotta get in the corporate world.
Yeah.
I was in total denial. It's like, I don't know that I'm gonna like this, but it's supposed to be great. I went with a suit to the first business fair. I got nailed an internship. Like, I was the only freshman. And then I just went off to, actually I wasn't the only freshman. There was a couple others, but they were top of the class. I was like, faked it really well. I think. But went off to Lord for my first internship, and it was
Started with the big dog.
Yeah, it was an engineering internship because I went for mechanical engineering, and I hated it. It wasn't their fault. I just absolutely hated it. I was like, I can't sit here any longer. I have to move. I remember my feet throbbing because I had sat so long.
Oh, wow.
And was sitting on the computer doing CAD.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is horrible.
Yeah, I would
So-
die. I can't. Like, even just sitting in this podcast room long is like, okay, I need to get up. I need to, like, walk a lap around this building or something. Like, I struggle, like, staying in place. And I think that is one of the things that, like, when you decide what business you're going to get into, you know, like, there are techie businesses and stuff like that. I don't know. But most of the business owners I know, even if they want to run the business and maybe it's not, like, a super physical, they are super, like, they've got to be moving and do things and, like, constantly
I'm not a bench
constantly be
work
on the
guy.
go.
Like,
Yeah.
You get the bench work body and you just kind of.
Yeah.
I know the people I used to work with. I just looked and I was like, these are really great people. These are not my people. My collar is white, but there's
How long did you
stains all
stay
over.
there?
I was there for a summer,
That was it.
and then I went. Well, they lost their funding for internships,
Oh, okay.
so I was like, okay, cool, thank God. So sophomore year, I went to another business fair. Same deal. Got an internship with Curtsy. It was their first internship, or first intern. And I'll never forget it. The first day I walked in, they're like, we start at 5. So I show up at 5, sitting there, and they're like, well, the plant manager doesn't get here till 8:30.
What?
So I sat for 3.5 hours. They're like, would you like a cup of coffee? Sat for 3.5 hours. He walks
Speaking
in.
of coffee,
Yeah,
sponsored by Tipsy Bean.
I already had mine.
Yeah. Well, this is my second because I drink a lot of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I walk in, I sit and wait, and he walks in, looks over at me, shakes his head, walks into his office. When I look at the receptionist, I'm like,
What the?
so do I get to work today? Or
Yeah.
you guys, I can go home. I got plenty of work to do. At the time, I was mowing like 25 lawns, and like I just was moving all the time.
Already being an entrepreneur. Yeah, making your own money
You
on
just
the
have
side.
to make money
Yeah.
so you can get through college. So he walks out, hands me a white jacket, and he's like, come on, we're going to show you the plant real quick. And there was this room where all the packages of like pre-quartered and sectioned meat got opened and put on a conveyor. It was a really nice setup. It went through a conveyor, got UV light on it, and then it went to get cut, and it was a pretty cool setup. And he goes, you're going to be here until I figure out what we're going to do with you. And I was like, I had like my suit on and my nice shoes all shined up, and I just got doused with blood.
No.
And I was like, I didn't have a jacket. I just had that stupid white coat. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is how this is going to be. And yeah, so that was not me either.
No.
Like, I'm either going to be working like that or I'm going to be in the office. I can't do both.
Yeah.
Like I can't turn it on and off.
Yeah.
Which I learned to do later. But Curtsy's great people.
Yeah.
Awesome company to work with. Got to meet the owners, got to meet everyone throughout. It just seemed like, or it just turned out that guy was just a little bit
He's a little
old-fashioned. So had to earn my keep, which was fine. I made a lot of boxes, learned a lot about the business, but they've been great. And in fact, they're one of my biggest customers. You'll see
That's awesome.
one of their trucks in the first season. You'll see one of their trucks backed in the bay for pretty much the whole time because I didn't have time to.
And for those of you who don't know, Curtsy is a food service business, and they're family owned, operated here in Erie for many years. I don't know how long, but like a really long time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So and that was a great experience, really good experience. But I'll never forget that first. I probably shouldn't even bring it up, but that's not.
No, it's great. Like that's an interesting
Not a dig
story.
on them. It was just like okay, that was like my second clue. Like maybe this isn't for me.
Right.
And then my third year, I don't even know what I did. I don't remember. Like I've been around.
There was a lot of alcohol in the third year.
There was not. There wasn't. There was no drugs. Very little alcohol.
Did you keep doing your own side work?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All the way throughout.
Yeah.
In fact, I was an RA in college, and like I got into it because they're like free room and board, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
So I did that, and it turned out all of the people I was working with that also weren't my people. So that was an adjustment.
You were finding out years of what was not for you.
Yeah.
Which is almost as good as finding what does work for you, because then there's not this wondering, 10 years into what you actually decided to do, you're not like, but what if I had to, so it's cool. It's cool that you just put yourself out there and like tried it anyway. I know a lot of kids in college don't do internships, or they wait until like their senior year when it's cool that you took it because it's there for everybody. Like take the opportunity and start in early, like go in your freshman year and start whittling out what you do and don't like about jobs. Like there's no way to find out until you try them. I have hired so many people over the years that had degrees, teaching degrees, engineering degrees. Like I'm talking like, what are you doing here applying for like a fitness job or a cleaning job? I'm like, you have a college degree, like go out and make real money. They hated what they were doing in their degree.
Mm-hmm.
They hate all the jobs that they had tried for 10 years plus years. And so now they're just doing general labor jobs. And I'm like, what a waste of time and money. So like, I'm glad I went back as an adult and I knew what I wanted to do. I went into communications business. I'm like, I'm already in this. I know I want to stay in this. So now I'm just going to be validated with a degree. I wasn't sure if I was going to go into the corporate world either, but it was quickly into getting my degree and seeing professors that had never worked in the real world and then kids who had never worked in the world. I was like, no, I like being a business. Like I want to stay my own boss. This is definitely the right path for me. But I can say as like going back as an adult, you're just looking for something you actually are trying to learn and you know what you want to learn. And I like had professors holding me to a higher standard than the class required.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I really actually want to get better while I'm here. So I don't want to just skate by. I know I could just easily get an A, but I'm like, hold me to a much higher standard. Don't just like, the experience and skill sets that I have are far surpass most of the kids that are 19 in here, right? So I was thankful I got to go back. But if you're just coming out of college, maybe thinking about getting into entrepreneurship, or maybe you're about to go into college and you're listening to this, do not miss the opportunity of internships. Like they are so phenomenally beneficial to helping you direct your career path.
Yep, whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
you learn something.
Yeah. So what'd you do in your senior year?
I got a job with Zern.
Okay.
Or maybe I should start saying another company. Maybe we should leave company
No,
names out.
it's fine. Like,
I think maybe
I think
I
it's
should
fine.
leave company
It's too
names
late
out.
because and I'm not editing this, so.
Anyway, I got a job there, and it was an inventory analyst. So that was neat. A lot of it was warehousing, and I got to kind of try and use some of the things that we learned in school, like inventory levels and things like that. But they were going through like a big transition of moving to like a bigger style hub and spoke model, and they were moving, what they did in each facility. So there was a lot of bouncing around, and there were a lot of people that were losing their jobs because departments were leaving, and it was just kind of like, this is not me either.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to just go back to what I know, and maybe I'll make some more money doing it. So I actually applied for a shop manager position at a dealership that does equipment, and yeah, I'm done with names. And
I don't think we're throwing anybody under the bus here.
No,
so
no.
yeah, it's fine.
But they're like, we think, they're like, we're not supposed to say this, but we think you're a little too young to be a service manager, but we have a sales position open. And I was like, I really always said I don't want to get back. Like, I worked at a small John Deere dealership locally and doing sales and setup and everything like that, and it was fun. I learned a lot. In fact, one of my biggest mentors owns that place, and we
Nice.
still talk. They're like, I think you should give it a shot. So I did, and I did fairly well. Sold a lot of equipment, and then I moved. I was an inside sales guy. I really like that. People already know that they're interested in the stuff when they walk in.
Right.
So it's not cold.
Right.
They're already warmed up. And I can give you all the information you want, be honest, and I don't have to worry about lying to you
Yeah.
or trying to get you overexcited about something that you don't want to hear about
Right.
when you're already interested.
Yeah.
So I took a promotion to go to an outside sales guy, and that was not me either, because I don't like bothering people.
I was gonna say that's more cold calling. So
Yeah,
that's,
I don't do well cold.
They weren't coming to you all warmed up
No.
and like, I'm interested.
Yeah, they look at me and go, what?
But what a great experience, though.
Yes.
Yes.
So after that, I was like, I'm going to work this out for a little bit, see if I can get any better, but I'm going to try and find a place to rent. So I did. I found a place to rent. It was just this little 2-bay stall in a bigger building. No bathroom, no anything, but it was clean, well lit, and enough area to back stuff in. I was like, cool, I'm going to go for it. And that's where I decided I was going to do the antiques. And just ended up doing trucks and tractors and equipment. Really, whatever I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
But if it was welding, rebuilding.
What's your favorite thing to do out of what you ended up doing and what you're doing now? Like, what aspect of it is your favorite thing?
I like pulling in a truck that everyone says is done or is just used up and completely blowing it apart into a million pieces and making it my way. And then when people leave, they're like, wow, I want that.
Yeah.
Like, that's
So the
best.
finished product, the craftsmanship, like having people really love your actual handiwork.
Yeah, the building I
Because
have
you take pride in what you do. Like, that's
I
the
do.
difference. When you really take pride in something that you do, it shows. And that's how I've built every single one of my businesses, especially the cleaning business. Like, you can tell in someone's house if you really cared or not. So that's something that's very hard to find in any business, especially like with employees, because nobody cares as much as you do about your own business. So I think that's probably like a common thread through most entrepreneurs in whatever it is that they do. They probably love that outcome of having excellence in the product.
Oh, yeah. And I try and build everything as if I were going to run it. And I run stuff fairly hard. So I want it to be above and beyond what it should be.
Yeah.
So, like, my building, for example, is a shell that probably would have been torn down.
But Chris likes taking old things and making them new again.
Yeah. So my old shop was nothing to write home about, but I wasn't embarrassed by it. And this place is mine, but I really don't invite a lot of people to just come check out the shop because it's such a nightmare. I have equipment.
How
from
did
the
Glenn
30s.
find you, by the way?
Okay, so Rob Frank was renting the production crew stands and things like that.
Oh, okay.
They needed stands, so
He
somebody
works for the
called.
city government.
Rob Frank?
Yeah.
Our Frank Media?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I thought he did stuff for the city because I thought the whole city was involved in that.
No, I mean he does stuff for the city, but that was the film office.
Oh,
So
okay.
they
So the
contacted
network contacted him directly.
Well, the production company contacted
Okay.
the film office. The film office did whatever they did with Rob.
That was a long way around.
Yeah, the general way I understand it is they bring what they need, like their lenses and everything, and they rent the heavy stuff.
Ah.
So the equipment
That makes
manager
sense.
or whatever.
And that's cool for the local economy. Yeah, I didn't
and
know
they
that.
used all
So
local PAs.
that's super cool. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, it was
I love
mostly
that.
local, like runners and everything like that. So, but the equipment manager said, "Hey, we really need a truck. We haven't found a truck. Do you know anybody?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, call Chris." So they call me, and I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I wait like a week, 2 weeks, whatever it was, and they're like, "We really, really need a truck. This is the deal we're willing to offer you." And I'm like, No, I'm good. And Rob calls me. He's like, "Hey, did a little background. These people are legit, so I didn't give you a bad lead." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll call them." So I called them back, and they're like, "Yes, thank God." So I look, and I'm like, "What are you looking for?" And they told me, and I'm like, they're like, "We're willing to rent the truck. This is what we want to do. We don't want to be stuck with a truck at the end of this. We need you to either supply us with a truck you already have that's registered, insured, and safe. Inspectable, legal to be on the road, and safe for us to drive." They're like, "Or we need you to go buy one and make it that, and these are what we want." So I'd find a truck, and they'd, "Yep, let me run it through the chain." It would be like 3 days. And then, truck's long gone. So eventually it was like 3 days before they dropped
Because they
down.
didn't want a new truck. They couldn't have
No.
this dude roll
And it
around
was all
in a
a
brand
secret.
new truck. Yeah.
It was all a secret.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fine. And it was not a lot of money we were working with.
Right.
Like, a very small amount of money. And they were pretty much, "We'll give you this as a rental. We need the truck for 3 months. You can have it when we're done." And I'm like,
Okay.
but that was a big thing for them. We don't want to be stuck with a truck. We can't buy the truck and have it insured and everything in a different state. There was a whole bunch of red tape that they had to follow. I'm like, all right, whatever. So eventually they're like, "Listen, we need a truck bad." I'm sitting in my shop. It was 4 or 5 in the morning. And I sat down for a second to drink my coffee, and I looked, and this truck popped up. And I'm like, well, that's a truck I can live with keeping if this falls through. And that's a good deal. So I flew out, and I went and bought it. And I texted the guy, and I was like, "Here's what we're looking at." He goes, "I don't really think that's what they're looking for. It's kind of big." And I was like, I sent him a selfie of me driving it home from Union City, or Corey. It was in Corey. And I was like, "Too bad I already bought it."
This is your truck.
Yeah.
And
if
it
this
turned
doesn't
out
work,
perfect. It was like such a cool truck.
yeah. So
the
Glenn's truck
image of
that he
it.
was driving, that was the
It's
one.
still parked out front. That's hilarious because, I didn't think they knew of you until the smoker.
And I didn't know Glenn. I didn't know anything. And this was, I gave him
So
the
that
truck.
was just the network. Like you hadn't met him or talked to him
No,
yet. Okay.
no. That was just the production company's equipment
Because
manager.
they literally couldn't start the show without the damn truck.
Yep. So, and I got it back, and then I started finding all kinds
Here,
of
Chris
issues.
is like, "I'll take 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever."
Yeah, I just didn't trust anybody. So I got it all ready, got it inspectable, inspected it, insured it, registered it, all that good stuff, and sent it on its way. And spent more money getting it all ready and done than they were going to pay for rent. But I'm like, well, I get the truck back.
You get the
in the
truck.
end.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I send it out. The first day, they whacked one of the dually fenders in the hotel parking lot, getting all loaded up. The second
'Cause
week,
it
they
is
whacked
kind of
the
a
other
big
one.
truck.
I'm like, oh my god.
These are city people, man.
They're like, "We don't do trucks." And it was hilarious. Glenn had a parked car.
Oh,
I found that out afterwards. But it had, I'd only get the truck for little tidbits every now and then when they needed something. And then be like, "Hey, it's leaking brake fluid. No problem, get it in." But I'd have like a day.
Yeah.
So I'd have to find the part, get everything, and I'd fix it and send it off on its way. And then, "Oh, hey, it's got this." Okay. But the truck had sat. And
Man,
the truck
the
that they were looking
crap
for.
you don't see behind the scenes.
Oh, you have no idea.
It's
And I still had not met Glenn.
crazy.
So I had no idea what they were doing with this truck. I didn't know anything about anything. And we go through, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to meet Glenn." I'm like, "Why?" I don't care. I'm done with you people.
I swear to you, I am like the opposite of this man. The polar opposite. I'm like, I am all about like, okay, Johnny on the spot, trust everybody, and I like, yeah.
No, I have a big wall.
I want to meet everyone. Like, there's probably some person in the middle that should be this balance.
Nope, I have a wall. And I've learned that. That's why I say I'm just unapologetically.
I'm like an open door at all times. Like, welcome, everybody. And I
Nope,
definitely should be a little more discerning at times.
But yeah, anyway, I met Glenn, and they're like, we just wanted you to meet him, thought we might have a good fit here. Because they had me come and sign papers and everything like that for the truck. They're like, hey, why don't you come and answer a few questions on camera? And I'm like, why? You know, I was just like so frazzled with these people. That's where I met Chris Norris, actually. And I just remember answering the questions, and I was so done with it. I looked right in the camera. I was like, that good enough for you, camera? And I think that might have solidified it.
And honestly, you know what that does? That makes such a good character on TV. He is such a good, he's just like, yeah, what's the point of all this? He's like, all I am is just frustrated with you people. Like, you make such a good
Everything was
character.
A secret.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it either. I walked in my work uniform. They're like, oh, you're playing the part today. I'm like, what part? I was like, this is how I look every day.
This is my job.
Like, I don't own the business and have people that just do all my dirty work. Like, this is what I do.
Oh, my God.
But, yeah. No, that whole experience was great, but that's how I met him.
Yeah.
And I just got back from L.A. visiting.
Yeah? That's awesome.
To see all kinds of stuff.
Did you get to stay in the mansion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sweet, huh?
Different.
Yeah. I was all like, Gisele just saw her future.
Nope. That was not me.
Again, polar opposites. I'm like diving in the pool like, I belong here.
Nope. I got in the pool one time.
Oh, no. Were you uncomfortable?
I wasn't necessarily uncomfortable. I've always been taught that if you shut up and listen, you might learn something. So I was just shutting up and listening.
I wasn't taught
the entire time.
my
And
my parents missed that lesson.
It was funny. They were actually stuck in Mexico with Grant Cardone, and they were like, "We'll be back. We're trying to get our flight changed," and they changed my flight and kept me an extra day.
Their flight? Don't they fly their own damn plane?
Not all the time.
Oh. Oh, I just assumed. You know, I've got an airplane. I'll take that everywhere.
No, like Glenn told me 100 times. He goes, "It's too damn expensive." He goes, "If I need the plane, I'll use the plane. If I don't need the plane, I'll just fly commercial." He goes, "It's more comfortable anyway."
Crazy. I'm gonna have to test this out in order to have a valid opinion one way or the other. Hear that, Glenn? Because he's gonna listen to this. I know he is.
He might. Hopefully not. He'll probably yell at me for saying something I shouldn't.
I doubt it. That dude's so real and raw, though. Yeah.
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 But yeah, I think I was probably super boring to them because I was there for a day before they got home. They were like, "Yep, house is open. Go ahead." And I'm like,
"Yeah, yeah."
And they're like, "It's so hot in here. Didn't you just?" I was like, "I don't play with people's thermostats." There's food in the fridge. I was like, "I'm good. I don't know." They're like, "We left you a car." I'm like, "Okay."
Oh yeah, I'm a dive-in. I was like, yep, I live here. Thanks, I'm part of the family now.
Yep, no, I just try and be super respectful and like, it's not that that's disrespectful. I just,
yeah.
It's kind of like, let them set the tone, and they weren't there to set the tone.
They weren't there to set the tone.
So they left me the truck, and I was like, well, I better go check out the truck. And I got in the truck, and like they're like, yeah, that big black truck, and I'm like, this platinum F-150 truck. I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
Start it, look, and I was like, oh, a low tire. I can be useful today. I was like, Thomas the Tank Engine. Like, I can be super useful. Like, so I've spent, my phone wouldn't work because I passed time zones or something like that.
He would. He's like, oh, a car that needs fixing.
Yeah, I was like, it's got a low tire and no fuel. I can fix that. So it took me like half an hour to find a gas station that I could get to with air and everything. It was just a different world for me. I've never been to anywhere.
Yeah.
And
what do you think
and they're like, where are you? I regrettingly liked it.
I love it!
Because I don't like...
It's my hometown.
I don't
so
like
I was born in Santa Ana, and so I love it. I can't wait to get back there someday. Like, I love Southern California. So I was instantly like, it was hard for me to leave. I was like heartbroken to leave.
Well, we were in Newport Beach.
Yeah. Santa Ana's not far. It's like a half hour from there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's still a different world. That was different.
Newport Beach up on the hill. But like I said, I felt at home, so I was just seeing manifestation coming from the universe for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you know Lori?
Lori.
Glenn's Lori. They're a good friend. Maybe not. But I knew her from the first season. She came out to kind of monitor him and make sure he was taking care of himself. And we got along really well. And they're like, just text Lori. If you need anything, she's going to come up and probably grab you. You guys can go to dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
She ended up getting busy. Her apartment was getting sold. So she's like, hey, I have to go find a new place to live. But here's a few places to try real quick. And I'll meet up with you as soon as I'm done. Cool. Well, it never worked out. And I'm like, she's like, here's good, here's good, here's good. These are all within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And everywhere's like 65 mile an hour. So it's like,
yes.
oh, there it was.
Yeah. Exactly.
I went
Everywhere's
to every
a highway.
place, and it was on polar opposites of where I was going, and every place was closed. Something due to COVID.
Oh my gosh.
And I was
Still?
like, Lori? I was like, it's closed too. She goes, you have to be kidding me. I was like, Lori, I'm going to find a Del Taco.
Honestly, though, Del Taco is like way better than Taco Bell.
She's like, why do you want Del Taco? And I was like, because I saw 3 of them on the way, and I know one of them's got to be open. I hadn't eaten in like 18 hours. I'm like, I'm a big guy. I'm hungry.
Was your wife and son with you?
No.
Oh, okay.
They couldn't go. My wife had just started a new job.
Oh, okay.
And we weren't sure about traveling with the kid just yet.
Yeah, okay. How old is he?
15 months now.
Good Lord. Yeah, he is kind of tiny. So I could see.
We weren't sure.
Yeah.
So they had some guests in the second or third day I was there, and they had their little one about the same age as mine, and I was like, killing me.
Then you were like,
I would have loved to have him there. I would have loved to have him there. He could have played pool and all kinds of stuff. It would have been great. But yeah, it was different. It was a good experience.
So, okay, so you got to see kind of that projection of, what entrepreneurship could be in Newport Beach and all. What do you envision for where you're going with your business? Like, do you want to keep developing that? Do you want to go a different way, like personally for your own entrepreneurship? What are your thoughts kind of like where this journey is taking you?
That's totally changed in the last month.
Really?
Yep.
Was it this trip to help change that? Or?
Yep, I needed to get away.
Yeah?
It wasn't that I needed a vacation. I just needed to be in a different place.
A different perspective on life and like...
And just not work.
And maybe it was a good thing that you were by yourself then and kind of took that time for some introspection. Yeah.
Because I didn't do a lot of talking. Like I said, I was probably the most boring guest they ever had. I just listened.
You know what though? Glenn is a talker like myself. Like he has story after story after story that he can tell. And I went on some hikes with him and like absolutely just sponge. Like it's the least amount of talking I did too. Like sponge, like tell me all the stories because that's the life, that's the journey is in all the experiences that somebody else has, that you can glean from. So is that something you want to share with us? Kind of like your new perspective on what you want to do?
I haven't figured it out.
Oh, okay.
I just know that what I'm doing it needs to change a little bit. So I figured out after when I got there, I went and bought a notebook and an extended battery for my phone and a couple groceries just because like I have a hell of a time figuring out different foods and everything like that. I can't do dairy and everything. I just got a couple things that I knew I could woof down for breakfast and run. And I sat there and I was like, I'm going to fill this notebook. And I figured out 90% of my business is done out of town anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have a lot of overhead for what I'm doing. And I don't get any of the service business after it leaves because it's 10, 12 hours away.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, so I'm working really hard and it feels like I'm just still grinding it out like I'm 2 years in while I'm not getting that supplemental business. So that's what I'm working on figuring out.
Which on a local scale would be the returning business. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if it's out of town.
Most of my trucks that leave are built for a purpose. We always call it trucks with a purpose. So everything that goes out, like there's very few people that would just walk into it, look at it, and know what's wrong. Whereas I could probably help diagnose it pretty quick. But I don't get that work because it's so far away. And local people, typically in Erie, you see the same truck for 20 years with the same guy driving it.
Yeah.
That's not the same everywhere else.
Right.
They have 10 of those trucks, and they're updating them every 2-3 years. We don't do that here.
No. It's not good for your kind of business.
No. I mean, I went and bought a truck that was in it was in New Mexico all its life. I drove to Chicago to pick it up, It's clean, but I went with an older truck than I had because I knew what I wanted, and I have no intention of getting rid of it.
Yeah.
It's just an Erie thing, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, maybe we're just like misers, or we value and take care of our stuff.
No, I don't think that's it. I think we have a low cost of living, but we also don't make a lot of money.
We do. Yeah. So people say that they're like, oh, it's such an affordable place to live. I was like, well, yeah, if your income is California income, like this is the cheapest place to live, but our median wage is definitely reflected in the cost of living around here. There's a reason for that, and that includes small business owners, by the way.
Well, it includes skilled labor too.
Right.
So I mean.
Oh yeah, because some guys can make over $100 an hour doing some of the stuff they make $20 an hour here for.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And that's the hard truth. And I don't think there's.
So you want to go outside of Erie? How to take this business model that you have and work it outside of Erie?
Yep. I want to be here, but I want to do more sales outside of Erie.
Same. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Spots.
I want to have my roots here. I've got my business here, but I'm thinking bigger. Like, how can I take this platform and go nationally, globally, like whatever? Like, what else can I do? And that's why I'm looking into the logistics of licensing the Tipsy Bean and what would it look like. I don't want to franchise, like I know that, and that's kind of the thing that's been changing over the last like 10 months from the show, like, because they give you a lot of ideas, like what do you want to do with this, you know? And so they start feeding you some ideas, maybe because they think it would be a cool spin-off show. I don't know, but it was great because it kind of got my juices thinking. I was like, I didn't think about that at all. I wasn't thinking franchising. And then as I got to mentor with TJ, you know, he's really like, what are you going to do with this? Like, you can't plan the future until you kind of know how you want this business model to grow. And just the different opportunities and time, you know, as the show has aired and stuff like that, I'm like, I think actually, like, I hadn't thought of it, but like this licensing idea is a really cool idea. So I'm trying to think outside that box, you know, and kind of go that way. So I think it's smart, especially if we're in an area like ourselves where it's a little more less advanced, like, you know,
we're
like
delayed.
Things, yeah.
We have some of the smartest people on earth, but
things take
Erie is always still 15 years behind.
Always, yeah. So, so if you don't have a super clear vision of where you want to go with it, what can you sit back and objectively analyze about the path that you've taken so far? What do you feel you've done the most right, or maybe the biggest hiccups or obstacles that you've had to come through that you've learned from? So some of the good and the bad, what do you think on each end of that? And because you're in this model of your first 3 years, trying to operate this kind of entire, you know, garage welding and all of this, and you're just now figuring out what your niches are and that kind of thing. So what do you think your biggest obstacles and maybe some of your biggest takeaways have been through the first few years?
I always say that if you work hard, the money will come. But if you could put together a little bit more money than zero before you jump in,
yeah,
it makes life a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
I was working in a place that had like practically no roof. It was leaking on the inside, but it was paid for. I had a guy who was like, young kid wants to get moving. I got a place if you want to take it off my hands. And everyone looked at me like I was nuts. It was bad.
Oh,
really
yeah.
bad. But I looked at it like it was the Taj Mahal. I was like, yes, I am in.
I did the same thing with my building. Everyone's like, you're crazy. And I'm like, no. And I've dumped a ton of money. I still don't regret where I'm at. I love where I'm at. I love my building. And now it has so much potential to make money in the future. But it was a major piece of work.
Yeah, so my biggest struggling point is all the money I make, I put into equipment. And my equipment's very expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas the building, like I just bought windows. And I have done a bunch of work on the roof and all kinds of stuff. But it still looks like shit. And people are like, wow, this place. And I'm like, yeah, but
you don't know,
the
I've
next
dumped
step is
$60,000.
$10,000.
Yes.
And I don't want to spend it right
Yes.
now because I don't have that extra 10.
Yes.
Because I'm still paying off something else. So
Yes.
my whole model has been like low debt because
Right.
we're still pushing out a lot of trucks, but like a truck might sit there for 2 weeks while we're working on it.
Right.
Me and another guy. So it's like big dips and valleys. So if you were to have a little bit tucked away for your startup and you could have some of your main tools ready to go, maybe start working on the side a little bit so you can tune yourself a little bit. I didn't do that.
You didn't get any kind of financing whatsoever.
At first, no.
Yeah.
No one would touch me.
Yeah.
I had impeccable credit.
It's a
no
huge
business
problem.
support.
It's a huge problem for
I found a
entrepreneur
program.
startup.
Like 3 years in, it was through First National, but they used my credit score and opened up a line of credit in the business name.
Which is what you want. You want credit in the business name.
Yep, and it has been remarkable.
That's awesome. But it took you 3 years to get there.
Yep.
And there's this rule of thumb in business that banks don't recognize you until you've run a business for 3 years. You have to have 3 years of tax returns. And that's a very unknown thing for new entrepreneurs. I didn't learn it until I went to buy the building that I had. And I had been running French Maids for at least 3 years, maybe 4 years when I went to buy the building. But 2 months before I went to the bank, I changed from a sole proprietor to an LLC.
Start over.
It starts you all over. Square
EIN
one.
is brand new.
EIN is brand new. You are a brand new business. It doesn't matter that you have all these tax returns. It's the same business. It's all the same assets. I even filed the paperwork that it was acquiring that business. Nope. Brand new business. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I would have waited just 2 more months. But I didn't know. That's the thing you don't know until you're in the situation. You got to know it. And so it's one of the things I drill into people when they go to start a business. I'm like, you don't exist in the eyes of a bank for 3 years. I had to go get alternate funding. So have you received alternate kind of funding within those first 3 years? Did you get a grant? Did you have help from family members? Anything?
No, the building was the biggest help.
Okay.
That was the thing. The guy was like, this sounds great. Take it off my hands. And he's like, you got to pay the transfer and the taxes and everything like that. And
but otherwise, it's yours.
Yeah. He's
Wow.
like, everything in there, just, he handed me the keys and he's like, go look at it for a few days and then make your decision. And I was like, no, I'm good. And he goes, just go look. Because I had never met this man. And I've always said that my network is my biggest asset. So through one of my mentors, it was a friend of his, and he's like, I told him one day, I was like, I gotta get out of where I am. And he goes, why don't you come look at this place that nobody wants? And I'm like, okay. And the weeds were growing up. It was all concrete. Some of it was concrete. I'd never realized that because the brush was 4 feet high. And I was like, oh yeah, this is perfect. You push the gate open.
Somebody like you would like to take a look at this shithole and be like, that's
one light
it.
bulb. One light bulb in the whole place. And we'd walk in and turn the light on, and I'm like, drip, drop, drip, drop. And I'm like, oh yes. Mold all over the wall. It was bad. Really bad.
Oh my God.
And the guy's like, here's all the information on it. There's no outstanding anything.
Debt or anything.
He goes, we ended up acquiring the properties next to it years ago. He goes, I went into business with a guy. It didn't work out. I'm left with the property. He goes, I've tried to sell it before. Everyone wants this, that, or the other thing. He goes, I'm tired of it.
Wow.
And I went out, and there's just abandoned cars everywhere. And he goes, the cars are going to be a struggle. I'm like, I can deal with cars. And went through, and I'm like, so ran all the titles and everything. Nothing exists. I'm like, okay. So we dealt with the police. The police got to take all the cars.
Oh, wow.
Ended up buying one of them back. And then, oh my God, there's just piles of garbage. Mountains of garbage that had formed.
How many
in
acres
years.
is this property?
I don't even think it's one.
Oh, wow. Just a lot of crap
just a lot of crap.
Wow.
I have video of my wife sweeping the floor and the moisture permeating out of the concrete. We had every fan we could borrow, every turbo heater that would run. There was a half-built wall that was kind of falling down with tarps everywhere. All my friends who were there from day one think that place looks great. It was bad.
If you're the first time going in now, you're like, oh, what a shithole. But, if you had seen it then.
Oh,
do you have this, in a story? Is this on social media or is it on a website or something like that?
Nope.
Do you have this kind of before and after?
Nope.
You should. This
Because
is
I'm not
such
done.
a great story.
I'm not proud of my building yet.
But the progress is a story.
To get in one time, I fell through the roof. They had this little addition bathroom thing, and the key wasn't working. And I was like, son of a gun. And I can't remember who I had. It was either an electrician to look at getting everything turned on, or we didn't have the water turned on.
Did you literally jump to just go through?
Nope. I climbed up, took a step, and there was a window opening. I was like, cool. Got through the window opening, and I grabbed the one truss, and it just broke, and I fell, and I landed right on the toilet that didn't work. And I was like, this
Oh my God. This is perfect. This is my life right
This is
here.
my place. And I remember having to get a drug test for insurance and everything like that. They're like, "Do you have a bathroom?" I'm like, "No, not yet. Someday." I
Oh
hope.
my God.
Found a secret room. It was just the dumpsters we filled.
What's the number one thing you wish you had known, like going into starting your own business, going into entrepreneurship? Because, there is that differentiation of just owning a business and doing that and then being an entrepreneur. It sounds like you want to be a full entrepreneur and really move forward in areas where you don't have to grind away every single day and make some passive-ish income. Now that you've seen the other side of that in California, you're like, oh yeah, I need to work a little less harder and a little more smarter. And having seen that and kind of knowing what you've already been through, what do you wish you had known to kind of bridge those gaps?
That's tough.
Because I know there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things, but maybe one or two that you're just like.
I wish I would have been better at bringing in the work.
Okay.
I still struggle with that.
Okay. What do you mean bringing it in? Like doing cold sales kind of a thing,
Yep.
or more time networking?
No, I'm not my networking is usually through working on somebody else's stuff, and then I meet another person and another person and another person. I've always focused on doing it just naturally. It's a little less abrasive, I think. I don't go to networking events and things like that.
Do you think that's something that you personally have to do, or is that a position you could hire to be able to bring work in?
So I've thought about that a lot, and I can't figure out how to teach somebody what I do, because unless they do what I do, they have no clue.
Well, that's a really tough position to be, because like you've got the skill sets and it's like I need to know how to be the salesman, but you already know you don't want to be a salesman, and you need a salesman, but somebody who understands the practical application, could answer all the questions. So I can see that would be kind of a tough position to fill.
Most people look at it, oh, he welds stuff. Well, what do I weld?
Right.
Can you weld this piece of car tin on the side of my truck? No, I cannot.
Right.
Can you weld my frame? Yes, I can. Are you going to? No, you shouldn't. It's like, there's very little, like, you need to look at the whole situation and go, we can fix this, but you're going to have a problem here, we're not going to do it.
So is there, because you had a little bit of experience doing that, but is there a way to train yourself into that? Or do you know what you need to accomplish that?
Yep, I need to get out of the business and be out calling on people.
Because it's harder to replace that kind of a person. It's hard to hire what you said. It's hard to hire somebody like that. It's easier to hire a welder.
Yeah, without having a reputation, nobody wants to talk to you either. So I just focused on getting the work in, getting the work out, and pushing it out and having it the best I could have it. And it so far has worked. It's just a little slower than I guess I would prefer. But I'd rather not promise the world and under-deliver.
Yeah.
I would rather, promise, hey, we'll get it done right, and then over-deliver.
Yeah, always. Always. Impress them.
Because I've taken on jobs. I'm just like anybody else. I've taken on jobs. They've taken me way too long. I've lost my butt on them. Yeah. And it's taken me so long because you got to fill in with work. You know you're going to make money.
Right.
And people get a little upset, and it's like, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I took on a couple big jobs. I know I can do it right for you, but this wasn't a good fit for me.
Yeah. No, you got to make sure you have the right equipment to take on the next level kind of a job, and you've got the right guys, you've got time and all that stuff. I think that's a really valuable lesson, though, to say, know what your best skill sets are. What can you hire someone else to do? I'm still figuring that out, even in the cafe, like a totally different business, right? But it's the same problem, and that's what I'm trying to find. The universal problems that we have is like, here's what I'm really awesome at. I'm great at sales. I'm great at getting out there, and even if I'm not as knowledgeable as like TJ Fairchild, like knowing coffee, he's like coffee extraordinaire. But I'm great at connecting and sales and pitching and knowing the process that I have to make my customer happy. So I'm still in that I still got to be baking. I still have to be working inside. What kind of a person do I need to hire so that I can be most effective at growing my business? Because me baking cookies isn't it.
Well, a decision maker, I think.
Yeah.
Someone who you can trust to make decisions.
Right.
And that's hard to find.
That is hard. That's hard to let go, too. Especially when, like, I'm kind of a control freak, about things like quality control, especially, entrepreneurs for sure. Like, you start this thing, and we have this extreme excellence, quality control, and other people come in and they're learning, so they maybe not have as good of skills. But even if they can get there, it's still this whole like, I want to make sure everything's the best of the best. And sometimes you got to let go and be like, it's okay if I get a 9 and not a 10, you know, because we still have to grow. If you always get 10s and you're not growing because you're not getting yourself out and moving forward, like that's detrimental too.
Yep.
So yeah, if you were talking to a new entrepreneur, which you are, you're going to be talking to a bunch of them here. What would you suggest to them? Like the one thing they should know, the one thing they should do getting started into it. Like if you could go back and maybe not exactly in what you do, but somebody was telling you like these are some of the main things you need to know becoming an entrepreneur looking forward. What would you tell that person?
If you think you're going to clock out at 5, you're crazy. You're not going to make it.
I like that.
And I could be wrong, but I'm usually not with that. I
He's
know
not
way
wrong.
too many people
He's
that
not wrong.
they get there at 9 and they clock out at 5, and whatever happens after that is what happens. And that's very rare that that's going to work. I deal with at least 3 of those people, and they're struggling, and I wonder, But, you know, they get the biggest paycheck in the first one, and they're there at 9 and they leave at 5, and they can't figure out why it's not working.
Yeah.
You're probably supposed to be answering calls in the middle of the night if you have a business like me.
Right.
And if you have issues with something you did, maybe it's not what you did, but it's related to something, you know,
Yeah.
that you do, and it's your current customer, and you're trying to take care of everyone you take care of really, really well.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go above and beyond.
I tell entrepreneurs that the first 2 years are just total sacrifice. It's like, you know, when people have a baby, like the first couple of years are going to be like total sacrifice of sleep, of time, of energy, like, and I don't like comparing that a business is a baby, but it's a similar aspect of sacrifice, right? Anything you start, anything you create, whatever it is, like you have to sacrifice that time, and it's great eventually when you get to make boundaries and you get to schedule your time in certain ways, but in the beginning, it's like everything. Eat, think, breathe that business.
Yep. And if you're not focused on it, somebody else is going to be.
Right.
So,
Or somebody will see what you're doing and immediately copycat it, and they're willing to put in 20 hours a day where you're only going to put 8. Oh, who do you think is going to grow faster? Who do you think is going to get to that market quicker?
Yep.
You know, I think that's super, super important to understand that how much sacrifice that takes. I've actually talked to people out of starting their own business. They come to me, they're like, I'm going to do this. I'm like, cool. Let me talk to you about the first couple of years. You're like, I hope you have a really good babysitter. You're a single mom, like, so this is going to be a major sacrifice. I hope you're okay kind of missing out on the next 2 years. School events, this and this and this with the type of business that you want to be at. It's going to be evenings. It's going to be weekends. And they were like, I've thought for about a week on it, and then they were like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can sacrifice it. My kids are only going to be this big for, I was like, and that's okay. That's great. Understand that now, realize it now. Don't waste your money and your time and get 6, 8, 10 months, a year into something. Hate your life. Regret not being with your kids. Like, that's great. Have that realization early. But that's why I want to be honest and real and hardcore about what it actually takes to make it happen.
Yeah.
It takes a sacrifice, a huge sacrifice.
And if you do have another half, you need to be on the same page.
Yes.
Because mine really was supportive, but like, wow. Like, we both didn't think it would take this long.
Yeah. And then you threw a kid in the mix, you know.
It was time. We got done with the show.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready.
Yeah.
And it was me holding it up. I was like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. Business has to be at a certain point.
Aw, she was being patient.
Yep. And we made it through that, and I was like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And we had Trott.
I love that. I love that. Because, yeah, I was just talking about this with another guest that when's the right time? Now. There's never a right time to start the business, have the baby, like whatever. It's just when you do it. And you'll figure it out. Like, you figure it out.
You will.
You figure out your life. You make it all work together. But you got to understand, like you said, your partner, you have to know, like, you guys are going to go forward on the same page with that. You know?
And I mean, my thing is, if you can't afford food, you can't afford your housing, you have lost everything you have, and, you know, okay, well, let's have a kid. No, that's not the time.
Right.
So I don't agree
Right.
with now is the time. Everyone says that, and you can believe
I
what
agree
you
that
want.
you should be able to take care of. I'm under the assumption that you can pay your bills when you're making a decision to start a business or start a family or something like that. maybe I shouldn't just assume everybody would know that. But I'm under the assumption maybe people listening to this would know that. So I completely 100% agree. I hate when I see people having kids and then another kid, like, you can't pay for, or they get 2 animals, and I'm like, you can't afford an emergency vet bill. What are you thinking? Like, you should know what you can financially afford. And if your spouse is there to help you, financially to be able to get that off the ground, then that's awesome. But if they're not, then you might have to maintain a part-time job while you start your business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is...
Or a full-time job.
Yeah, or a full-time job. Yeah.
Health insurance is the thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, unless you already are set up with support from government assistance or something like that, and you can figure it out, well, that's one thing. But for sure, if you're married or you're in a relationship, know that
it's going to be a strain.
It's going to be a strain. Mm-hmm. One's going to have to sacrifice for the other for a time. So this might be a longer time than you expect.
It could be 5 years, 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah, be prepared. Because sometimes we're ahead of the market. And especially in Erie, where it takes things a little longer to accomplish, I've been ahead of the market in some things. Like, not so much the coffee shop was super relevant. It was like, this was the time. This was a great time. I actually opened it a year earlier than I planned because I'm like, no, the market's hot for this right now. Like, it does need to happen. So I kind of projected some things a little faster. But back in the day when I was getting into it was like, oh, okay, like, it could go this way. So, yeah, I don't regret it at all. But I think that's awesome advice for everybody to take away. Well, I appreciate you being here today, Chris, for coming out. You're such a cool dude. And everybody that ever talks about, whenever your name comes up, no one ever has a bad thing to say about you, by the way.
Just wait.
It might take a few more years. There'll be some bad stuff. Then I'm going to have him back on the show. I definitely want to have you back. I want to hear about this journey and what you end up deciding to do and what that's going to look like for you as you start to head down that path, But it's fun being your fellow TV star.
Yeah.
And seeing what you're doing.
And
we're like in such like completely opposite industries, except he stops in for coffee, which is awesome. I don't really stop in for welding.
No, it's quite right. I just tell whoever's behind the counter, just surprise me.
Yeah, they love doing that kind of a thing. So, yeah. Yep. I appreciate you being here. I think Chris has given you a lot to think about.
And this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor or an accountant. Please.
And this is not legal, and this is not...
mentor, anyone other than someone who is not me. They were trying.
There's your disclaimer. I hope you all have a wonderful, prosperous, and productive week. Peace out, peeps.